Hello, welcome to Grandma B's Busy Life. I'm Brenda, and some of my favorite people call me Grandma B. I'm excited you're here today because I'm going to show you step by step how to make one of my favorite things and something I'm very well known for among my friends and family, and that is cinnamon rolls with that delicious cream cheese frosting. I originally got this recipe from Pioneer Woman, but I have adapted it along the way. So in the description box below, I will list all of the ingredients that I use and the amounts that I use so that you can repeat this recipe at home. Okay, to get started, in a saucepan, I'm putting 1 cup of sugar. I'm gonna also put 1 cup of oil, and I'm just using regular vegetable oil. And then we're going to add 4 cups of milk. The last ingredient to this pot is 1 teaspoon salt. Okay, now I'm just going to stir it up. I'm also going to turn my burner to a medium heat, and I'm going to stir it up, and all I'm waiting for here is for it just to be warmed all the way through and the sugar to be dissolved. I know it's that way as soon as the milk starts to bubble. I don't really want it to boil. If it does boil, you haven't ruined it, but I'm just looking for it to get to that boil. That's called a scald, and that's what I'm looking for while I'm cooking this. Okay, it's looking really good. The milk has started to bubble, but not quite boil. And so I know it's heated all the way through. When I stir it, I can feel that there's no more sugar crystals in there. So it is ready. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off and leave it for about an hour. I'm wanting it to cool down to between 95 and 100 degrees. You can tell that it's about that temperature if you stick your finger in it and you can't feel the liquid around your finger. It's pretty close to the right temperature. If it's too hot, you'll kill the yeast. And if it's too cool, it'll take longer for the yeast to rise. It is better to err on too cold side than on too hot because you don't want to kill your yeast. So I'm going to leave it for an hour and then come back to show you the next step. My milk mixture is finally to the right temperature. So I'm just going to dump it into my mixing bowl. And to my mixing bowl, I'm going to add 4 1/2 teaspoons of yeast. I'm using instant yeast. You can use active dry yeast. It's equal to 2 packages. I buy mine in bulk, so I measure mine out. And then I'm also going to add 7 cups of flour. But before I do that, I'm going to put it onto my stand and put my dough attachment on. And I'm going to start mixing it. I'm going to add this flour 1 cup at a time. Now I'm just going to let this mix until all of the flour is incorporated. I'll probably have to scrape down the sides a few times to make sure that all the flour is incorporated. Okay, all 8 cups of flour are fully incorporated. I'm going to put it in this bowl. I've lightly greased the inside so that as it rises, it'll slide up the side of the bowl easily and the dough won't have to struggle to rise. I'm going to leave it in this bowl for about an hour, and then I will come back and we'll be ready to roll it out. I do like to cover it with plastic wrap so that it doesn't dry out on top. I'll know that it's been enough time when the dough kind of reaches the top of this plastic wrap. So leave it for an hour and I'll be back. My dough has risen to the top of my bowl, so I'm ready to use it. It's nice and fluffy. On my board, I'm going to put about 1 cup of flour. And into that, I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a stir right here on the board. And I'm going to move about a little more than half just off to the side so that I can use it as I go along. I like to use gloves when I'm kneading bread. Just a personal thing, personal preference. Now when you dump it out, it's very soft, and that's okay. I'm just going to start working with it, and all of the flour that's underneath will start to incorporate into the dough. I've kneaded all of the dough I put on the board plus about 1/4 cup more into my dough. And now I'm just going to divide it into 4 equal parts. This makes either 4 pans of 8 giant cinnamon rolls or 4 dozen smaller cinnamon rolls. I put half back in my bowl just to rest. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on my board and just set 1 of these pieces in that flour so it doesn't stick. And this dough I'm going to roll out into cinnamon rolls. Like I said, 1/4 of it will make 12 smaller cinnamon rolls or 8 large cinnamon rolls. I always make 8 because it fits in a regular size baking pan perfectly. Use plenty of flour. This is a really soft dough, so it's okay if there's lots of extra flour. I like to just stretch it at the corners to try to make it as rectangle as possible. Does not have to be perfect, but the more rectangle it is, the better your end cinnamon rolls will be. Okay, here's a trick that I like to use. If I've got a section that's a little longer than another, a little wider, I can put it in the spot that needs a little more and just roll it in. Once they're all rolled up, you're never going to be able to tell. All right, that looks pretty good. In this bowl, I have 1 stick of mostly melted butter, and I'm going to put about 1/4 of it on the dough and spread it around. Sorry, I said 1/4, I mean about 1/2. It takes about half a stick for each pan of cinnamon rolls. Next, I'm going to spread out some brown sugar. This is about, I'm not sure how much brown sugar this is. On the next one I roll up, I will measure it so I can leave it in the description box below. But it's about 1/2 cup. And I just spread it out even. Make sure that you get all of the toppings all the way to all of the edges. Doesn't need to be perfect though, because when you roll it all up, you're not going to be able to tell. And then I just sprinkle cinnamon on. You can add raisins or nuts or anything that you like in your cinnamon rolls, chocolate chips. At our house, we like them with just cinnamon and brown sugar. Okay, now you're going to roll it up. I always start from the side that's long, and I try to roll it fairly tight. Just keep rolling all the way down. Then to cut it, I like 8 large cinnamon rolls. So I cut it in the middle, then cut each of those pieces in half, and then each of the fourths in half to give me 8 even pieces. All right, I like to put mine in a foil pan because it sure makes cleanup easier. I'm just going to spray the bottom and the sides lightly with this spray, and then I place on the ends, I put them end side down, and I put 4 lengthwise and 2 across. This one's coming open. I'm just going to pinch it so it won't come open. And then I just give them a little press. And then I leave them. I'm going to let them sit for about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the temperature of the room, until they puff up and they're touching each other. Okay, I just want to show you what I would do if I was going to put 12 into a pan. This is the same amount of dough that I cut 8, but I do the same thing. I cut it in fourths, and then I take each piece and just cut those into thirds. And that gives me 12 smaller cinnamon rolls, and at the end, after they're baked, I'll show you the difference. All right, my cinnamon rolls are all ready. I've preheated the oven to 350. I have my smaller 12 in a pan and my larger 8 in a pan. I'm going to put them in the oven for about 25 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes, until the top is golden brown. They are done, and they smell so good. I cannot wait to dive into them. So they're golden brown on top. Look perfect. I love how they fill out the whole pan. They weren't touching when I put them in the oven, but they rise up and squish together in the oven. So while the other 2 pans are in the oven, I'm going to go ahead and make the cream cheese frosting. All right, now I'm going to show you how to make the frosting. In the bowl, I have 1 8-ounce package of cream cheese and 2 sticks of butter. Mine's slightly melted because my bowl came right out of the dishwasher, so it's hot. And I'm going to mix it up. It is at room temperature so that it'll be able to be mixed pretty easily. Okay, I've got it well incorporated together. Now I'm going to just put in about 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And I am not measuring. I'm just going to put a little bit of my vanilla in there. And about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I don't measure this either. I just dump a little bit in. It just helps balance out the sweetness. And then about half of one of these bags, so about 1 pound. I don't measure this because I'm looking for a consistency, a specific consistency rather than specific measurements. So I'm just going to mix this. Now, if it's a little too thick, you can thin it out with a little bit of milk. I usually need just a little bit. You don't want to put too much because it will make it too liquidy, and also it could cause it to start to separate. All right, it's all ready. It's got a beautiful, smooth consistency, and this can be used 2 ways. I could take it right now and put it on my hot cinnamon rolls and it would melt like a glaze. Or I can wait till my cinnamon rolls have cooled and then put it on top like a thick, creamy frosting. I'm gonna wait until my cinnamon rolls are cool to frost them. I'm gonna frost up the cinnamon rolls. I like to put a lot on each roll. That's it, pretty simple. I've frosted one of the little ones that I made, and I'm just gonna give it a try. So good. It's delicious. Who doesn't love cinnamon rolls? So give it a try. Thank you for joining, and please subscribe, like, comment. It all helps me to get my channel up and moving. We'll see you again soon.